Hello everyone, welcome to Semi Homesteading with Abby. Thank you all so much for tuning in to today's video. I appreciate you being here. I'm doing something a little bit different today because usually when you think of semi-homesteading or homesteading, you think of like gardening, preserving food, all of the skills you need to run a homestead. And I agree that those are homesteading skills and very important. But part of what I want to learn through this whole process of homesteading and semi-homesteading is how to keep a home, how to get in some good habits to make a clean and peaceful environment for my family. Want to be able to host people. I also want to take care of my physical health, exercising, working out, all of that, all of the good, healthy things that we should be doing. You know, I've reached the age where I'm realizing how important all of these habits and rituals really are, taking the right supplements, and overall just taking care of myself and my home. So as you saw in my last video, this weekend we threw a peach party. So fun to have everyone over and host. That is one of my big things that I really want to get more into doing, is hosting people and having them over to our house. But that night I was so tired that I literally just lounged around all day, didn't really clean up the house, didn't really do the dishes that night, nothing of the sort. So we just relaxed and went to bed early, and then the next day I had to work, so didn't have a lot of time. And then Monday night I realized, like, okay, I need to get this cleaned up and my house back together. And so I thought I would start filming a couple days of my life about getting my house back to its orderly state and also implementing some of my own healthy habits. I also thought it was a good time to tackle some of the things on my to-do list that I have been completely putting off for a while. The other thing that was going on this week was that it was my husband's birthday on Wednesday. So usually his mom, you know, all growing up made him his favorite meal, which is this stew. And it's pretty involved, like things have to go into the blender, you're chopping a bunch of stuff, you're letting it slow cook. I made this stock homemade, and so it was a lot of pressure. I've never made this stew. His mom has been the only one to make this stew, and so I had to try to live up to that. Now, it did go a little bit wrong. I added a little too much salt. It wasn't terrible, it was still edible, but I was a little disappointed. But I also then made a French silk pie for his birthday dessert, but all that birthday prep is also in here. I hope you enjoy this video. I know this isn't a typical like homestead video, but I do think it's important to also have like a homemaking element to all of my homesteading videos, because I don't just want it to be like, okay, if things hit the fan, I can survive. I want it to be like a happy, peaceful home in the meantime. I don't just need to be a prepper. Enjoy the video. Okay, the first thing I have to do anytime I'm about to get into a big cleaning spree, so I gotta put up my hair, gotta put in my headphones and listen to a nice podcast. So that is what I'm doing here. I had so many dishes to first unload and then load into the dishwasher. There were just pans everywhere, and you know, it was a great party, so lots of dishes were used. One point of progress that I will report though is that I used to absolutely hate doing the dishes, and so I would just let them sit there and build up and build up and build up till I had like literally no dishes at all, and then would just do them all at once, and it was always terrible and I would dread it. Now I actually kind of view them, or doing the dishes, as, you know, kind of therapeutic. I don't really mind doing them anymore. So usually I'm pretty on top of them, but this was just a whole other animal after this party. Now, I also replaced the trash in the trash bag, and I had to clean off all of our big serving platters. There were a decent amount of big platters with fruit and things like that. Now, normally I would put the fruit in the composter, but it was very late and I did not want to walk out to the composter. I need to move that much closer to the house. So that is why I did not compost those. But I cleaned up all the rest of the serving dishes, all the rest of the pans, and our dinner for that night, and I just felt so much better once the kitchen was cleaned. Having a clean kitchen is the absolute best feeling. Everything is put away, except this jar is what I put my camera on, so time to put that back. So waking up on Tuesday morning, naturally I brush my teeth, and then I am starting to implement this new tongue scraper thing. I heard this copper tongue scraper is really good for fighting viruses and just keeping you healthy overall. So I am starting to use that. Then I'm taking my vitamins and any medicines, combing my hair a little bit, putting it just in a simple ponytail, and then doing my face. Now my morning face routine is literally just basically sunscreen, and then I barely do any makeup. I just do a little bit of eyebrows and some mascara. Simple, easy, takes like literally 5 minutes. So perfect for a busy morning. The other thing my husband and I do literally every morning is we make coffee, we sit down at our kitchen table, we do some Wordle, we read the Bible, and we pray. And that has been one of the most influential and beneficial morning routines ever. This particular morning, I decided to make my bed first thing. Now sometimes, since I work from home with just like my laptop, sometimes I work from bed, and you'll see that a little bit later, but I like to at least try and make the bed every morning. Doesn't always get done, but this morning it did. Then I have to change for the day. I've noticed that if I stay in my pajamas all day, I am way less productive, so I changed into this outfit. Very simple, but you know, I can be productive in this. And then during my first kind of work break, I took the time to text Home Depot. They have a very good system for returns, and this was one of the things on my to-do list that I was putting off, but that was me coordinating my Home Depot return. And look at my little work buddy. This is Mick. If you're new to my videos, this is him. If you are returning, you've seen him in almost every video, but he is quite the little cat, and he is just the cutest thing ever. So I went back to work for a couple hours, and then around 12:30, I decided to go eat lunch, and just in the most perfect timing, my grocery delivery order came at the same time. So I put all of those groceries away and wanted to start making the stock for the stew that we were gonna have the next night. You have to make the stock one day, and then you use that stock in the stew the next day. So I could have just done the boxes of stock, but I figured this was a great opportunity to learn how to make it on my own. So it was easy to throw together, didn't take too long, just had to chop up a couple vegetables and throw in some meat, and it ended up turning out very well. Okay, so that is what the stock looks like with all the chopped up vegetables. And then I realized that I had forgotten to take some of my supplements that morning. So I've been trying to implement these new supplements. One of them is like a green juice, and then one of them is magnesium. I keep listening to this guy who says that magnesium is like the most important mineral ever and that we're all under mineralized. And so anyway, I'm trying to drink more magnesium. And then look at Mick napping. Is that not the sweetest thing you have ever seen in your life? His arms were like tucked under his back leg. It is so cute. Okay, then Tuesday after work, I decided that it was time to feed my sourdough starter. This is a routine that I have been trying to implement more regularly. I mentioned it in another video that, you know, I was in a really good routine, and now I haven't been making as much sourdough like in the last couple weeks, so decided it was time to feed it again and try to get a loaf baking this week. So did that right after work. So then I took out all the broth after it was done simmering for about 3 hours. I took out the broth from the vegetables, and I got about 2 cups of broth. Then it was time to go work out before our trivia night that night. And I also set up my new phone. Very productive afternoon with a workout and new phone. The other thing I needed to do was freeze peaches and cut them up for smoothies because I had so many peaches left over from the peach party. I thought we were gonna use them all easily, but we had probably 10 peaches, 10 or 12 still in the fridge. So I figured it's easiest to just cut them up and freeze them for my husband and I's morning smoothies because we're trying to get back into that as well. So this was like some good prep work before we headed out for trivia. Then we ran out of time for dinner, so I made these avocado toast things. We ended up getting pizza later. Okay, we just got back from trivia. My parents and my aunt and uncle also went, and we got third, so I'm now going to do my face and go to bed. Now, a big part of this week is my husband's birthday dinner. As you can see, I made the stock earlier today, but tomorrow I have to wake up and immediately put all the ingredients for the stew into the crock pot because it has to cook for like 7 hours and I need it to be done by dinner. So that's what we're doing tomorrow morning and I'm excited. Hello everyone. I just woke up. It is Wednesday and it is my husband's birthday. So I need to start the stew for his birthday dinner here in a couple hours. But first I'm going to go give him a little surprise and go to Starbucks. Okay, I got the goods. So I'm heading back home. I'm a little bit late, but hopefully he's not awake yet. It was indeed a success. He had not woken up yet, so he woke up to the coffee, a nice Starbucks breakfast sandwich. Then I also had time to actually stop and get some chocolates for him and a birthday card. So that was all very good. Got back, and after our Wordle, Bible, all that, I started making the seasoning for the stew and then started chopping up all of the meat. Now I mentioned that my stew turned out a little bit salty. Once we tasted it, I went back to these videos and tried to figure out how much salt I put in, and that was like the one seasoning I didn't actually record. I turned off the camera thinking that it would be just kind of boring to record every single spice going in. So it is a mystery to this day how much salt I actually put in, but it was too much. The next step is to brown up some butter or make it hot so that you can brown all the meat. So I put in 4 tablespoons of butter onto the pot on high heat and am trying to really quickly cut up all this meat because by the time it starts sizzling, you should be starting to brown it. So I was trying to frantically cut all this meat into 1/4-inch cubes. I got it pretty close to right, but I had to turn down the heat on the butter a little bit just to make sure it didn't overdo it before the meat all went in. Now while all that meat is browning, I am chopping up the vegetables that we need for this stage of the stew. Now for this stage, it's only half of the vegetables in the total recipe, but basically you're gonna cook them up a little bit, make them soft and tender, and then blend them into a puree to then put back into the stew and make the sauce thicker. So that is really the key to my husband liking this recipe. He likes how thick it is, and so basically once the meat is all browned and done with that little stage, you remove all the meat from the pot, throw the vegetables in, cook them for about 10 minutes until the potatoes are tender, then throw them in the blender for the puree. I will be sure to put the recipe in the description because it's hard to explain just on this video. So then after the vegetables are cooked for a while, you add that seasoning mix that we did and then 1 cup of the stock. As you can see, my measuring of the stock didn't go so well, so I kind of guesstimated. And then I transferred the stew from the pot into the blender. I forgot to video actually pureeing this, but once it was pureed, I transferred it back into this big pot and then added the remaining vegetables back in for the stew. At that point, you let it cook just a little bit more, you bring it to a boil, and then transfer that into your slow cooker where you let it cook for about 5 to 7 hours. Now, I had to add a little bit more beef stock to my stew as it was going. It got a little bit dry. I'm not sure if that's like an elevation thing or not, but that is what I had to do. Now here you are seeing me implement another little self-care habit, and that is ice rolling my face. This was $9.99 on Amazon, and like honestly the best purchase I've ever made. This feels so good. I do my whole face for probably like 5 to 10 minutes in the morning, including my under eyes and, you know, my forehead, my whole neck. Like, it stays cold for a really long time. I highly recommend buying one of these. It really reduces inflammation in your face. It's supposed to circulate your blood flow in your face, help prevent wrinkles and stuff like that. And so I highly, highly recommend. After I'm done, I just pop it back in the freezer to use the next morning. Okay, then I worked. Then at lunchtime, I had to go check on my parents' dog. So I immediately dropped my wallet, get my keys, and head on over there. And this is Rusty and Reggie. These are my parents' dogs. Rusty is extremely hyper. We're working on it. We're working on his sitting when I tell him to sit. But all was well over there, so I come back home, I worked the rest of the afternoon, and I checked on the stew, which is going swimmingly. Then it was time to throw in a load of laundry. I just put it on a standard cycle and then went into the closet, got the rest of the dirty clothes and put them in the hamper to prep for the next load. Then by that time, birthday dinner was done, so we had the stew, the Caesar, and more dishes. Always more dishes. Like I mentioned, the stew is a little bit salty, but still pretty good. So we started just hanging out. We were gonna go work out. My husband was working out at this time, so I decided it was time to make the pie crust. I should have done this way earlier in the day because I read after the fact that I was supposed to refrigerate this for quite a while, both the crust and the filling. It turned out fine, and I'll tell you why, but basically I was kind of late to the game on this. So I just add, you know, the flour, the sugar, the butter, food process it, and I just kind of scrunched that into a pie tin, and it turned out really well. You're supposed to like make it into a ball, refrigerate it for multiple hours, roll it out, then lay it gracefully in the pie bin. I just made the dough and unrefrigerated, scrunched it into a pie tin. All turned out well, so it ended up being fine. Once the pie crust was formed, I used dry rice as my pie weight, which worked swimmingly. Okay, I just worked out, did the elliptical for a little bit and the treadmill. I'm very sweaty. I switched the laundry into the dryer. I put a new load of laundry in. Then I finished the pie crust and the pie filling. So I am assembling the pie now and making whipped cream for my husband's birthday dessert. And we are gonna have a little movie night. My to-do list is starting to get it completed, so I'm feeling good. Okay, so this is the final product of the pie before whipped cream. I made my own whipped cream with the hand blender, and this is the final product of the pie with the whipped cream all done. Delicious. Okay, so one of my friends is coming over for dinner tonight, so this is all good timing to get the house completely in order. And one of the last things I have to do to get that to happen is move these tables around. So let me show you what I mean. So for our peach party this weekend, we set up this chair. Now it's just a plastic foldable chair with a tablecloth, which is now dirty. This is our dining room table, but it's too small when we hosted a game night, so we moved it over as like an end table and then moved the smaller end table that's usually there into the garage. So what I need to do is disassemble this, throw the tablecloth into the wash, move this back over to our dining room area, and move the table in the garage into here. So let's disassemble this table. Oh, I'm also watching Keeping Up with the Steins in the background. Amazing movie, would highly recommend. Step one is done. Now the hard part is taking the dining room table and putting it over here. That's actually so much easier than I thought because we got those little mover things on the bottom of the table. I honestly thought that they would like fall out as I dragged it across, but everything seemed to stay fine, so that's pretty simple. Okay, I'm a little out of breath, but I was able to move that in from the garage, so we're all back in order on that front. I need to figure out what to do with this cord because I really like the look of this lamp, but obviously having a cord is not good. We have a floor outlet right there, and I'm like, can we drill a hole in this table or something? I don't know, but at least that is done. I have my diffuser going, I have the candle going, so we are set. That is all for today's video. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed just this around the house, you know, the everyday routines that we do. So again, if you have any tips for any of these things, cleaning, eating well, any of your wellness tips, let me know. I always appreciate the input. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you on Monday. Bye everyone.